Hey, is that folk music there you play there? What is that? How do you call that folk music?
I think it was Studs Terkel who asked Big Bill Brunzi, did he consider his blues music to be folk music? And Big Bill says, well, never heard no horse.
Don't hesitate. It could be your ticket to a new tomorrow.
Start?
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're here at Horses Sing None of It. My name is Ralph Litwin, and you've been listening to some music that might sound familiar to you from the West on WNET, Channel 13,
Yes.
Education Television,
Yes.
from Kenneth Littlehawk, our guest today.
Yes.
Welcome, nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
And that was a song of your inspiration from, what did you call it before, a power song?
Yes. 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 Seemed to work very well, although I had no, responsibility in it, but it seemed to be exactly what the musical director was looking for, and I'm very grateful for that.
And you're not only a musician and composer, but you're a storyteller
Yes.
and actor. You've been in many productions on television, on stage.
Few. If I was doing many of them, I'd probably be on Jay Leno. But yeah, I've done a few. I've been fortunate enough to get in some very good ones, which helped me to see what real professional actors that know their craft do, and then that way I was able to learn a lot more than I ordinarily would have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful for that too. It's an honor being here with your audience and you.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
What would you like to share with us?
Well, there was this old...
Why not?
I was playing this earlier, and speaking about the stage, there was a woman. To many of us Indians, that was the equivalent of Helen Hayes being I believe, the first woman of the American theater. I think that's what they called her. Mm-hmm. And the woman that I'm speaking of was in many, many Indian movies and plays and radio and stage. and her name was Marie Antoinette Rogers. And she crossed over into the spirit world to join her ancestors not too very long ago. And she sang a song in a play that I was honored to be a part of with her called Black Elk Speaks. And the song that she sang was Inkpata. And what it is, it's a Indian lullaby. And she sang this song as Black Kettle was trying to gather his people and let them know that everything was okay, although the cavalry was coming, you know, full speed. It was okay because they had the American flag up, and as long as they had the American flag up, they knew they would be friends. Well, of course, they found out different because they were massacred. But during that scene, she sings this song, Inkpata, and I'd like to play that for you and your audience, if it's okay.
Great, yes.
Inkpata.
Not sure whether the appropriate response is to applaud or nod off to sleep.
Oh, right, yeah. It's a lullaby, yeah. Way to put the children
Very
to sleep
peaceful.
after they've had, their day and everybody else wants to go to sleep and they still got so much energy that they want to carry on or find out, what's going on, and you just take them and you do that, you sing that, and the next thing you know, they're out.
Would you like to share with us some of your family background and what brings you to be living in Union, New Jersey?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's interesting. My great-grandmother came across the Canadian border, being Micmac and Mohawk, and Cree also, all Canadian. Well, she came down across the border in a buckboard with my grandmother in a cradle board on her back. They settled in, eventually came down far enough into the Catskills and settled around the Bear Mountain area. Many of the towns up there, which I can't recall the names offhand, I would hear them talking about when I was young, like I think Croton on the Hudson, and Bear Mountain, of course. And she would talk about the time before the Tappan Zee Bridge, because my great uncle showed me the hill or that mountain that they were raised on, and it was on this side of the Tappan Sea. My grandfather, the Dutch found out, was he's Mohawk and Cree. He found out that he was a wonderful farmer. You know, he would look at the stars and the moon, and he'd know exactly what to plant, when to plant, how deep to plant it, how to nourish it, and they liked him very much, so they hired him. And of course he said yes. I guess there was very little back around that time. I believe that was somewhere around maybe 1890. And then they moved down into New Jersey, or they had been in New Jersey, but they came down closer into New Jersey. And then they asked him if he would come over to Pennsylvania with him, the people that he worked for, the Dutch people. And he said no, he felt that he was going a little bit too far away from his ancestral ground, and that he would have to stay in the northern New Jersey, New York borderline area so that he would be close to the people of his heritage. So they decided to settle in that area. Of course, that's, you know, how I got here. But today you'll find that you have what at one time I believe that was called, one example of what it was called was the Indian Relocation, which the government took the Apaches and moved them southeast, and took the southeast and moved them southwest, and took the north and moved them south. And by moving them around like that out of their own natural area, then of course they wouldn't be familiar with the plants that they would use, although there would be plants to cure the same kind of sickness. They wouldn't know what it was because they were out of their element. Mm-hmm. Couldn't expect for cactus medicine to be found in Nova Scotia, nor could you find Nova Scotia plants to be found in Arizona or New Mexico. So that kind of put us in a position where you would say, well, I'm Choctaw, and we know the Choctaw come from the southeast also, and they would be raised for hundreds of years out of, well, where's my friends come from, Chochis? From Seattle, out in the Washington area. So, you know, when people say, well, gee, you're Micmac, you say you're from Nova Scotia, what are you doing down here? Well, that's one of the reasons. Just like today, you go where the work is, if you can find it. If you have a family, then you certainly have to go where there's going to be food, clothing, and shelter, and the money to sustain that lifestyle for your family. So that's how we wound up down in this area.
Would you like to give us some more music?
Yeah. Let's see. Here's what I was playing was and is a Native American flute, and it's as you can see and hear, it's a lot different from the wooden flutes that you hear when they come out of the factory with the metal on them, and they're played this way, although they sound beautiful and much better than the metal flutes as far as fullness and natural tone. These are a very special instrument to us. Our flutes are used for healing. They're used for calming the nerves. They're used for ceremony in some cases, and they're used for social songs and social times, festivities. And they're also used and have been used for courting, where a young man will court a young woman or a woman with a flute. When they're not allowed to be together, then he'll be outside of her house or somewhere in the field, and he'll be playing the flute, and then she'll know, you know, what he's playing and what he's saying. Hey, baby, yo-yo, yo-yo, what's up, mama? You know? And only it'll come through, of course, you know, with the Indian influence. And I've been told that sometimes there have been two young men that liked the same woman, and they would get out in the field and do battle with the flutes. And usually the one that played the most original and beautiful song wound up with the young lady's favors. And that was this one that I had played before. This also is a smaller flute, and a very beautiful flute too, made for me by Christy Kum, who's in Colorado. And Christy Kum is a Ute name, meaning one with nature, or man of nature. And the Ute people thought that much of him to bring him in to their tribe and their people. And he's European. So if your heart is in the right place and it's expressed with the right spirit, then any of us can be accepted into whatever group of people that we come in contact with, as long as we treat them with the spirit from our heart and not so much from our head. We also say aho.
Aho?
Yeah, which means the same thing as, clapping. When you go to a show and you see somebody and they're really doing what you feel, you hey man, yeah, and we do that also. We clap and say aho, aho, and it means the same thing. It's an expression of feeling, good feeling.
Well, that's the way I feel about this album of yours I've been listening to while I'm driving around. It keeps me real peaceful.
Oh, good. Chase the mice away too, right?
And we should let folks know how they can get in touch with you.
Okay.
In case they'd like to find out more information about the recording or where you might be playing and performing.
Thank you.
And that number is 908-688-1130 to reach Kenneth Littlehawk.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
And I don't know if you want to tell us a story or tell us a joke or whatever you want to do. We've got
How much time do we have?
we've got about 8 minutes.
8 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Short story. We're going to have time to play together?
If you leave us time, we'll have time.
Okay. Well, then I'll tell a short story. And it's an Iroquois story. I believe it's Iroquois. And it's been adapted. The storyteller that I heard tell it and that I was introduced to and spent some time with at a powwow told this story. And he said that this young man and this young woman were out and about. And they saw this beautiful hill. And they said, come on, let's go climb the hill. Let's see what we can see over the top of the hill. She said, okay. So they went up and they climbed up the hill and they got up on the top of the hill and they looked. And they saw another hill that was a little higher. Come on, let's go to the next hill. So they went to the next hill and they climbed the hill and they went up the hill. They got to the top of the hill and they looked all around and they looked down in the shallow valley. And they looked up and there was another hill, a big one, but on this one, on the top, there was snow. Come on, let's go. It's okay. So they went. Oh, boy. And they had just reached the part where the snow was starting to form on the ground. And they looked down and they heard jumped back. It was a rattlesnake, big rattlesnake. Rattle, rattle, rattle. Would you and the little girl help me, pick me up, and take me down to the valley where there's more food and it's warmer, or I'll die? Oh no, said the little boy. We were told about you. You'll bite us and we'll die. Yes, said the little girl, we were told. Our parents, our grandparents, our auntie and uncle. No, no. But do you think I would bite you and kill you when you're saving my life? No, no. You're supposed to help, aren't you? Isn't that what you were taught? Yes. Yes, you were. They looked at each other. Yes, we were. Well, okay. So they picked him up and they carried him down to the valley. And just as they were about to let him down, he reached back and bit them both. The poison rushed into their veins quickly. They could feel it. The little girl and the little boy looked at each other and started crying and looked at the snake and said, why did you do that? Why did you bite us? And he said, because I'm a rattlesnake. That's why. But why did you? You were told by your parents and your elders, but you did it anyway. I bit you because I'm a rattlesnake. Well, the story, as we imply it today to what's going on, is that the boys and girls have been told about drugs and alcohol by their teachers, their parents, all of the drugs that are out there. And every day you turn on television and on the news, there's a different kind of drug to be used. And we're told about it all over all the time. And the rattlesnake is a symbol of those drugs. You're told about them, you know what they'll do, don't touch them. Even if somebody says, I'm good for you, I will make you feel good. But you'll wind up being another statistic somewhere on somebody's cold morgue plaque. So that's an adapted story for the day and time.
Very good. Very good.
Got time for
Yeah, we have time to play a little music.
Okay.
We went over this little tune we kind of grabbed out of the air. Pleasure to have you.
Oh, it's my honor,
Yes.
believe me. I've seen you on television, and I said, you know, that guy there is a bit of all right, as Grandma used to say. You know, he comes from his heart. Today, most people come from someplace else,
Thank you.
or some people, but you don't. It's my honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.